it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, and this is another post-Geek Out reaction, the show where I talk to you about the geeky property that I just watched immediately after I watched it while the thoughts are all fresh in my mind. However, there's a little bit of an exception to that today, because on the previous episode, I talked to you about the first 7 episodes of Daredevil Season 2, and I talked to you about those the morning after I had just stayed up all night watching all of those episodes, and I was incredibly tired and very, very loopy. And today, I'm still incredibly tired and very, very loopy. However, I finished up this series a few hours after I finished recording that last episode. When I said to you guys, you know what, I'm just going to bed now. I went to bed for like an hour, woke up, and then just polished off those final 6 episodes. But I haven't had time to record this until now because I was super busy all week long working on that Thorgy's Theory video that just went up the other day about the Batman Superman movie, because that had to get done. I've actually been working on that for a month now, which is the longest I've ever worked on any video. So if you guys could, go and check that out and also share it around the web, that would be super nice. But I'm saying this to you guys because A, I wanted to explain to you again why I am incredibly loopy once again, because I'm still so tired. But also, like I said, one of the things I do on this show is I talk about the stuff immediately after I watch it. I've had about 2-3 days to think about this since then, but that's actually kind of good because I've been able to talk to some of the other people at my job who have also been watching this series, and I think that I'm still pretty far ahead of the curve. I don't think that most people have finished this series yet, so I'm doing pretty good. I'm just babbling right now because I am, as I said, so tired. But let's get into it. Okay, so previously on Daredevil, when we last saw our heroes, they were standing in front of a big ass hole, and seconds into the next episode, they get attacked by ninjas, and Stick shows up, and oh my god, they knew how to start an episode off. I absolutely love that they did not make that the cliffhanger at the end of that episode, because them just staying in front of the hole was such a good cliffhanger because it was so mysterious. And then just starting off with that, just a punch in the gut with Stick just showing up out of nowhere. So yeah, in the episode since I last left off, they have really started exploring the hand more. And I absolutely love that they really leaned into all the creepy, weird, mystic side of the hand for a couple of reasons. One, because we haven't really seen that much mystical stuff in the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet, especially in the Netflix series, because the Netflix series is supposed to be really grounded, really realistic. So introducing all that weird, horrifying, mystic stuff in a show like Daredevil, as opposed to like one of their big movies, makes it actually feel more realistic and makes it feel dirtier and grungier and more threatening to me. Like, I know Doctor Strange is right around the corner, and when that comes out, it's going to be nothing but magic. However, it's going to be this big spectacle stuff. It's going to be out there in alternate dimensions, but seeing stuff like this rejuvenation and all the weird experiment stuff that they're doing makes it feel that much more threatening seeing it in Daredevil, because it makes it feel actually kind of real. So I love that they're leaning into that mystic side in their explanation of the hand in their cinematic universe, because if you follow Marvel Comics, then you know that over the years, the hand has kind of just become the ninja dudes who show up to get beat down by somebody. Although that's starting to get fixed. They got a little bit more mystic at the end of the last Daredevil run, and also in the current Daredevil run. In the current Daredevil run, they're getting a little bit more mystic again. So I'm glad to see that resurfacing. But yeah, I'm going to be jumping around here just as the thoughts come to me, because speaking of how frightening the mystic side of the hand was, seeing the farm, oh my gosh, that messed me up. It really did. That was some J-horror stuff. I was not expecting this series to go there. And especially when the hand attacked the hospital. Because when the hand attacked the hospital and you just start seeing all those people from the farm just stand up like zombies, wow. Yeah, it lets you know that this is definitely a mystic thing. This is not some science experiment where they were just draining these people and putting some weird toxin into them. This is something that has taken complete control of their body, especially the way that they were just standing there. Like I said, that was a total like J-horror thing, just having them all just stand there. like that. And then when you have that one ninja in the morgue and you see that they actually have like the Y incision on their bodies, like they actually have had an autopsy done. Again, the way that they were playing into the mystic side in a realistic way just makes it that much more frightening, because it wasn't just like, oh yeah, they're zombie people, oh, this guy was dead once and he came back to life. It's like, no, they actually show you this is definitive proof this person was dead before, and not in some way like, oh, hey, he's got a bullet hole here next to his heart or something like that. It's like, no, this is something that is a medical procedure that is done to someone after they have died, and we are showing it to you, makes it seem that much more factual. I cannot get over how well they played into that, but alright, I'm talking too much about the hand. Let's get into something far more grounded. This is something that I wanted to bring up in the previous episode, talking about episodes 1 through 6, but it got really damn good in episode 7 and on, and that is just the legal side of this show. I enjoyed the legal side in season 1. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a good addition to the show. In this one, it became one of the best courtroom dramas I have seen on TV in a long time. Granted, I don't watch that many courtroom dramas, but whenever they were going up against the DA, and you would just see Foggy just spin out some knowledge and just show her, it's like, no, I am not some jokey character. I know what I'm doing. And he would just deliver some line, like when they had to go and see the Punisher in the hospital. And the way that they were just able to put her down, I was like, oh, that was a bigger beatdown than anything Daredevil did to the Hand this season. But when it actually got to the actual courtroom drama of it, I was super tense all throughout that. I was not expecting to feel as tense in the courtroom scenes as I did during the ninja fights, and yet somehow they found a way to do it. And speaking of that court case, to me, watching Foggy take something that was practically unwinnable and slowly over the course of many episodes turn it into what was practically a victory just right there in his hands, like almost winning this thing. It was so amazing to watch that happen, and that's what made the Punisher sabotaging that whole thing probably the most heartbreaking moment of this entire season to me. Because Foggy worked so hard to reach that, but also because you knew it meant the end of Nelson and Murdoch. Like, this entire season, watching their friendship slowly crumble, and not crumble as in like, oh, they get into some big fight over some little thing. No, this was a legitimate, no, you've screwed up, Matt, too many times. We told you this was going to happen, and now it's happening. And especially when Elektra showed up, and you just watched her forcing him to come with her, and that was sabotaging the case, and how that was just sabotaging the friendship. It was painful to watch that fall apart. And so that moment in which you saw the Punisher destroy this case, and you knew he was destroying their friendship as well, that's what made that moment so heart-wrenching. But it led up to what had to have been the greatest reveal of this entire season, which is when he gets to prison. I didn't know what was going to happen in prison. This thought never even crossed my mind. I didn't think this guy was going to be in this season at all. But that moment when he gets to prison and he goes out there onto the yard and you just hear those weights being lifted, I was like, who's lifting weights? Who's lifting? And then you see it's kind of a big guy. He's lifting a lot of weights, and that's suddenly when it hit me. I went, no way are they gonna do this. No way are they gonna do this. I lost my mind when the Kingpin showed up. That moment was the best reveal of this entire season. And I love that they didn't have him just come in for like one episode. They had him come in here for a couple of episodes, and he owned every single one of those. And here's why I love the Kingpin in this season more than any other character. It's because I loved him in season 1, but I didn't think he was the Kingpin. I thought they created a really interesting character, because in season 1, he was playing a character who was kind of like quiet and reserved, and he didn't really speak up that much, and he just kind of kept to himself, and he seemed a little bit on edge. And then when he liquefied that dude's skull in a car door, you realize that it was because he was full of so much rage, and he was full of so much anger that he just couldn't quite control it, and so he just kind of kept to himself. And I liked that character, I did, but I had a small problem with the fact that it's like, okay, I can't see a guy who's that quiet and reserved making his way all the way up to Kingpin of New York City. I can't see him making his way all the way up to the top when that's the way he acts. It's a very good character. I just can't see him in that role of the Kingpin of New York. And also, I like the Kingpin in the comics. I really wanted to see him acting a little bit more like that. But this season, he is totally the Kingpin from the comics. He nailed that character. And I love that he didn't just change personality on a dime. He said prison changed him. And I loved watching how thoughtful he was of everything, like the way in which he was able to take the last little remaining bits of money that he had and how he was able to use that to buy himself protection, and he was able to get the Punisher there in prison with him, and how he was able to tell the Punisher just the right thing to get the Punisher to show up at that moment to kill the guy who was his competition. It's like, oh my god, he's a mad genius. He thought all this out and playing into his hands so well, and the fact that he wanted to get the Punisher back onto the streets just so that he could kill all the rest of his competition while he was in prison. It's like, that is some genius supervillain stuff right there. And he was so threatening. Like, in season 1, he was threatening because he was a big guy loaded with rage. In this season, he's threatening in his quiet moments. Like, for example, when he was there next to the guy who was his competition, that guy is dying in his bed, hooked up to machines, can't even respond. And he's just eating dinner, just cutting into his steak, like it's no big thing. And he's just talking to him very peacefully, very relaxed, and just like, they say that your lungs are filling with liquid. You're probably going to suffocate on your own blood within the next couple of minutes. You would normally die alone, but you won't. I'll be here. And I was like, oh god, that is such a good delivery, and he's just got that perfect arrogance of a guy who owns the world. And he still had that anger though, but he was able to direct it. It wasn't anger that would just explode out. It was this anger that was like, no, he will use that anger to destroy everything about you. When he is just beating the crap out of Matt. And that perfect line of, which first off, I gotta say, Matt put up a great argument against him of how he would just take him down. That line about how he would take him down with $6 postage. That's all it would take to keep his wife away from him forever. Oh, he delivered that so well. But then the Kingpin had the best follow-up in which he's just beating the crap out of him. And he just goes, I will destroy your life, and I will spend more than $6 postage to do it. Oh my god. That entire exchange. But okay, loved Foggy, loved all the court stuff, loved Matt, loved the Kingpin. The Punisher and Karen, I dug watching their relationship develop throughout this series. And also, I was saying in those first 7 episodes that I loved seeing all the investigative work that Karen was doing, but I felt like, yeah, she should be doing something way bigger than just being their secretary. And the fact that she actually took over Ben Urich's old office there at that paper, I was like, that's actually a beautiful thing to happen to her character. That is actually an amazing character arc for her to take over that exact same office. So I love seeing that happen, and I really dug watching her relationship develop with the Punisher, and I thought that moment of her being in the diner and talking to him about Matt and how he was like, yeah, he's just so destructive and he's just drives me crazy. The fact that she got relationship advice from the Punisher was amazing. And the advice he gives, it's really weird, but he sells it so well. It's like, I don't care if he is destroying your life. I would give anything for that. It's like, I would call you out on that, but at the same time, like, I understand what you're saying. The Punisher is somehow able to sell that. I can't get over the fact that the Punisher gave out relationship advice. But speaking of the Punisher, let's get into some of the things that I didn't like. I loved everything about this season. I thought it was better than season 1. It might be better than Jessica Jones. I'm like going back and forth between which one I like more. But I had a small problem with it, and that all came into the final episode. Because in season 1, they knew this is one season. We gotta wrap everything up. We don't know what's coming. In this one, it was very much like, no. We know that not only are we getting a season 3, we're also getting a Punisher spin-off series out of this too, alright? They haven't confirmed a Punisher spin-off series. There was some talk about it. But when you watch this final episode, it's like, you totally have a Punisher spin-off series in mind. You wanted one. I don't know if you're getting one, but you were wanting one, because I really enjoyed watching the mystery of all this stuff about what happened to the Punisher's family building up throughout the series. And then all of a sudden you bring in this thing of the blacksmith, this big drug dealer who's running New York. And I was like, oh God, what's happening with that? Oh man, who's gonna turn out to be? Oh, what's gonna happen? And then it turns out it was his commanding officer who came to the trial for that one episode. And I was like, that came out of nowhere. There's like nothing that hinted at that at all. And then when the Punisher confronts him, and he says like, oh, it all came down to this. And he mentions some mission they went on. And Karen is asking him about it. And he's just like, no, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. And he doesn't say anything. I was like, wow, so this is the thing that you've been building up to all season. And you're just going to kind of leave us all in the dark? And then he finds that disc in their old house. And I was like, did I miss something? Was that from something else? And I know why they did it. They did it because it's like, yeah, Punisher spin-off series. They want to give him his own show. And I was like, all right, I'm sure that answers will arrive in this Punisher spin-off series. And the Netflix shows have been so good that I do have some faith in that. But yeah, wow, it felt kind of like a tease to have this big thing building up all throughout the entire season. And then when you get to the conclusion of it, it is just go watch our other show. I was like, yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. And it kind of reminded me of some of the stuff that I don't like about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love that it's all tied together. I love that they will set up things in one movie that then go into another movie. But when they set up so much that it just leaves you with questions rather than excitement for another movie, that's when it becomes a little bit hurtful. So I was like, I don't want to see this become a trend. But still, The Punisher was so freaking good this season. In fact, there were a couple of things that they didn't answer. Like, I actually went around and asked some of the people I work with who have also finished this season, did they ever explain why the hand was digging a giant hole? And nobody knew that. So, yeah, there were just a couple of things like that in which I was like, yeah, you didn't really explain anything. Although I will say about the final episode, I knew that Elektra was going to die. I thought it was probably going to happen next season when they set up Bullseye, because Bullseye has to come in at some time. I figured that was when that was going to probably happen. However, the moment that Matt started talking to her about, after this is over with, we're just going to run off, just you and me, I was like, Dad, all right, those are the magic words. The moment you tell someone, hey, this is it, this is the last mission, and after I'm done, it's just you and me and we're running off together, no one has ever said those words and survived. Those are always the last things that you say to someone in a movie. So I knew she was going to die, and I was really worried about how they were going to do it, simply because I knew that there would be outrage on the internet. And I would have been outraged, because that's part of her story. Part of her story is that she is killed and then resurrected by the Hand to work for the Hand, and then she becomes this super badass version of herself. So I knew that was coming one way or another. So I would not have had a problem with her dying this season, but I still didn't want to spend an entire year listening to people saying, oh, how could they have done that? I can't believe they set up this great character and then just killed her off. It's like, you know she's coming back. So I will say I did love that they did not make us wait an entire year to see that. I did love that the final thing that we see this season is her coming back to life. So okay, final thoughts on season 2. I absolutely loved it. I did. I think it was hands down better than season 1, and I loved season 1 as well. I still don't know if I liked it better than season 1 of Jessica Jones. I'm going back and forth on that. But yeah, this shows to me that Marvel can have a superhero in this gritty, realistic television world, and it works. And that was my big fear, because season 1 of Daredevil, it was all just regular criminals and mob bosses and all that stuff, and Matt was just running around dressed all in black. It very much was like the super street level version of a superhero. And Jessica Jones, it was all about someone with superpowers, but they were like, yeah, no, I decided not to go with the superhero thing. I'm not gonna go down that route. So I was kind of worried that they wouldn't know what to do with Matt now that throughout this entire season, he was an official superhero. He was going around there in the costume. He was going to have other supervillains out there, people with actual superhero names. And I was worried that they wouldn't handle that very well, but they did. They handled it excellently. They had that exact right balance between the gritty, real-world crime and legal stuff, and also the superhero and the supernatural stuff. I think they balanced it incredibly well. I do have those problems that they didn't really answer that much. The way that the season ends with him revealing to Karen that he's Daredevil, I thought that was fantastic, and that is a great cliffhanger to leave us off on, as well as seeing Elektra coming back to life. I thought that both those were great cliffhangers, but there were just a couple too many other things that weren't explained, and I got that feeling that they didn't want to explain them because they wanted you to tune in for more, and that didn't really feel exciting or intriguing. It felt more like a tease, and not the fun kind of tease. You know, it didn't feel like, ooh, tease. It was a tease. So yeah, I did have a problem with those. But aside from that, yeah, excellent. So let me know in the comments down below how you guys felt about season 2 of Daredevil, as if you couldn't tell from this episode. Full spoilers are on, so say whatever you want. Okay, thank you guys again. If you're new to this channel and you want to see some far more professional videos from me, ones in which I actually write everything out rather than just coming up with it off the top of my head, and I do that when I am fully awake rather than half drowsy, half zombie, then click that subscribe button right here. Bam, there. And also click on my face to go to the part 1 in case you missed that, in which I talk about episodes 1 through 7. But alright everybody, this has been another Post Geek Out reaction. Thank you very much.